I'm incredibly excited to announce our next presenter. His name is Lamphear, and he's had a 35-year-old career really focused in sales, marketing, and the channel development that not a lot of people really understand. What goes behind the business strategy and the marketing and all of those handshake deals that it takes to bring a product to large retail buyers. He runs a PSDT, product service distribution technologies, but his real expertise is bringing these products into these really cool niche markets and broad markets where they're going to be able to perform best. So I really appreciate your time today. Just to touch on a couple of the areas, you hit grocery, you hit college office, you hit mass drug, CVS, Walgreens, distribution, manufacturing, wholesale clubs like Costco. There's a whole wealth of knowledge that's about to hit your eardrums from Lou's mouth. So thank you, Lou, for giving us our time. I hope I didn't build you up too much.
No, I hope I don't hurt anybody's ears.
So the first question that I really wanted to kick it off with is, how does your company bring a product to market? Because I know that you have this vast array of people in these retailers that already work with them, right?
Right. So we have a network. Our company's kind of split down the middle. Half of our team is focused on product management and managing those relationships with the manufacturers, the service providers, the entrepreneurs that are coming forward with their opportunities. The other half of our team is on the relationship management side, where we manage relationships with channel partners. Contracted directly with us in our world, our team, we have about 200 groups or a little over 500 salespeople that live and breathe out in the market every day. And so it's connecting all those dots. And where we start with somebody early on is having those early conversations. Where are they in the process? Is this a cocktail napkin idea? Is this, have we evolved the product? Have we actually started to have conversations with potential distribution points, retailers? Where are we in the process? And we find that the earliest point that we can start to work with somebody, the better off we all are, because you need to have vision into ultimately where you're going to go, right? Yeah. So it's like planning a trip to Florida, right? So I'm going to Florida. When am I leaving? How much money am I going to spend? Am I driving? Am I flying? How am I going to get there? You really need to have that process. And so we try to dial in with those folks early on to try to see where they are in their trip and to see where we might be able to start to connect the dots and bring, this vast relationship knowledge and experience to the table to help them with that.
Well, that's what I'd love for you to kind of be able to share with the viewers is because you build relationships better than pretty much anybody I know. What advantages does using a retail broker offer?
Oh, there's several. So first of all, you have experience. You have experience not only in pioneering an opportunity or a service, but you also have experience with the relationship and experience with the account. And there's a culture in every business. There's a culture in every retailer and how they look at products or services, where they are in their evolution. And you really have to understand that. So there's this ultimate transfer of trust that comes from somebody that understands that and bridging that over to a new opportunity. And many buyers today are asking those relationships, those broker relationships, to really pre-qualify opportunities to the nth degree before they bring them in there, because there are so many products, there are so many services that are flying across their desk. Where should they spend their time and their effort to do that? So the broker brings that relationship, they bring that experience. They also, they're your tour guide, right? So they're your navigator, the ultimate navigator to help you through that organization. Oh, no, you don't want to start over there. They always say, no, let's start over here. Yeah. Or, gee whiz, you know what? She's getting a promotion and she's going to be responsible 3 months from now. So we might be better off walking in the door at that time than it is now. And here's the reasons why. So there's just a lot of intel as well that goes along with that.
That's a great point, and we've seen it from the front lines. But one of our members asked a really good question. What can a supplier realistically expect a broker to help with, as far as advice on sell sheets, branding, marketing, displays, packaging? What is a broker's expertise going to help with, in the process development for that product?
Yeah, it's a great question, and a good broker will want to be involved in as much of that as possible. And we really encourage our partners to share everything. We call it an open kimono relationship, but what we really want to do is, bottom line, we want to talk about all of those components because they all affect the other. There's times where you can get a great idea and concept to the floor and it's like, wow, that brand's not going to work. I wish I could give you a couple of examples. One recently that comes to mind is an adult wipe. And they really worked hard to try to find the right name for this adult wipe. Yeah. And they came up with a clever, funny, beautiful name, but it was a name that could not be used in a retail store. And so sometimes we have this great idea or thought, but it's not necessarily going to work the culture of who's buying the product or the store that it's going to go in. And there's obviously more to the strategy behind a brand, right? But that's a simple example. From a marketing standpoint, what the broker is going to be able to provide is what the retailer offers in marketing. So a lot of times it's not just what the manufacturer or the service provider or the entrepreneur brings forward, maybe in social media, or maybe brings forward in their own, development, or whatever marketing campaign or promotion they're running or they think to run. It's what does the retailer offer those products and services that come into the door, right, and how they can help. And they have some great programs, and they have a successful path to follow. But those paths usually cost money and or need to be navigated properly, so maybe they don't cost as much as they might be printed as saying that they are. And really, how do we cross-promote or cross-market within the store? So those opportunities are really to come through experience and understanding the buyers, the products, and how those organizations, work. And then obviously from a display standpoint, every retailer is a little different. Sometimes you see the same display in multiple stores, mm-hmm. So you might see the same display, at one retailer as you do another. But many times they're different. And one example that I like to use is in the gift card industry. So everybody knows what a gift card is, and you walk in the store and we look for that gift card rack. But what you may not realize is that every store might be very different where they place those cards and how they merchandise those cards. Mm-hmm. How many cards are there? A small blueprint store might have the cards on a small display near checkout or behind the counter. Right? So that's valuable space around checkout, yeah, right? And that's small, and you would know that. So obviously, now you look at a larger blueprint for a store, they might have a whole aisle of products just for the mobile world, and then they might have another one for entertainment, etc. So, understanding the display, how that display works, what it needs to get on that display, is again experience that can be brought forward from that broker relationship.
I think it's a great example. Really kind of across the board, whenever you're working with a retail, experienced partner, getting them involved earlier is, much better to really lend their expertise. But what's the biggest mistakes that people make when going through brokers that you've seen, either, with your clients or people that have come to you after bad experiences?
Well, first of all, I think so everybody knows somebody or feels that they do, and I love when I hear the stories about, I know a guy, I know a girl, I know the person, right? And it's not so much about knowing them, it's understanding the process and having success with that. So we like to call it commitment versus attempt. So, a lot of times a broker relationship, and it depends on how you contract, like in our business, we don't believe in attempt. Our contracts with our partners are ones that, whatever it takes, we have to get that product to the shelf. But we have to commit to each other to do that, because we might have to jump over a wall, blow through a wall to get there, and it might take time to do that. But if we're not committing to the product and you're not committing to us in that relationship, that's where you're going to run into problems. If not, then it's going to be like, well, let me give that guy a call that I know. I'll see what I can do. And if they don't get any kind of positive response in 5 minutes, it might go to the bottom of the pile. Yeah. And that's not what, a new product or opportunity deserves. And the challenge with that is that everybody is excited about a new product. They're excited about a new service. They're excited about what they're bringing forward. They've made decisions for their family and their lives based on these products and services and what they might do. But you know what? It takes time to get other people to find that vision, and it's difficult sometimes to get the retailer to buy into that vision and understand it. And sometimes you could have the greatest product or idea in the world, but it doesn't go anywhere because it doesn't fit the other pieces of the mold. And so you really have to pull those pieces together. So for someone just to say, I'll give it a shot and not commit to helping not only that product to navigate that product or that service through that opportunity, but also maybe have that real conversation to say, you might need to change this or do something here in order to make this work. You need to have that kind of relationship with your broker partner.
That's a great example. And I think a lot of people, they go into that relationship with the biggest intentions, with money in their eyes. And when the rubber hits the road, it's a lot of work, isn't it, to really put that together, to sure. Put it in the right package to present it to the retailer. As somebody that sees the sales pitch often, what can you really tell somebody who has a product that to give them realistic expectations about maybe a timeline, or what really goes on the back end for those buyers' decisions?
So the time, that's interesting. So I just had a recent conversation with a manufacturer that is looking for placement this summer.
Yeah.
And now if you think about it, it's like, wow, it's only February, end of January. There's plenty of time to talk to somebody and get it out there. And the best case scenario in that type of a time frame, if it's and by the way, this product has advertising behind it, has success behind it in other countries, so it has some momentum, so it has a chance. But to get that into a major retailer and to get placement for this summer is going to be very difficult, which you might get because they do have that experience as a test. And but the opportunity for maybe smaller placements,
right,
or maybe e-commerce, or with cross promotional opportunities, or existing distribution where there's a display and there needs to be a fill for that display in some way that might go along with a summer theme or something like that. Now we're talking, or an in and out opportunity, right, for a display. Now we're talking about maybe there's a chance, and so we try to talk to as many opportunities as possible, so our chances go up, and we obviously will find placement. But the bigger opportunity for that business, unfortunately, will probably be going into next year, or we have to find places that are warm. Like where I'm in the Northeast, that season's short. Let's go to places that season's longer, right?
Yeah. I think that's a great example. And really, you touched on something before that I wanted to go back to.
Sure.
When people with a product, a lot of times they hear, I know a guy, or I know the person here. Oftentimes they hear that when they're in a trade show and somebody comes up to their booth and says, you know what, give me a commission, I'll introduce you to the guy that I know, my kid played t-ball with. So how do you know, when you get that kind of an opportunity that rolls across, how do you know who's legit, who's not legit? What should people be looking for?
Well, first of all, they should have some successes within that relationship, right? So you may know somebody, but have you actually sold a product to that relationship before, or to that retailer? Mm-hmm. Do you understand that process? So that would be something that would be important. Also understanding the type of person that they are. Are they talking all the time and telling you what they're going to do, or they're asking a lot of questions. And I know that we've heard this before, but it's so true. It's like you need to establish a need and understand the product. So are they really listening to your product and understanding, and really trying to dig in deep before they're making that promise? Or are they just saying, wow, this looks great, I could do this for you, but before really understanding everything about that product, or what you went through, or what your capacity is,
right,
or do you have any packaging? How deep are they getting with you in that process? And so I think you really need to look at that and making part of that decision making process is what level do you have with that relationship or experience or with that retailer, and at the same time, do they really care, or trying to get to understand the product, or are they just trying to throw it against the wall to see if it sticks?
Yeah. And when we're talking about nickels and dimes and percentages, a lot of people don't budget for everything that they need, as far as logistics, as far as buybacks, as far as all the commissions that everybody wants, slotting fees, all of that. What should somebody with a product expect when going into, let's say, a major retailer like Dollar General or Walmart, Target, something like that? What kind of commissions and fees should they expect on the front end and back end?
So another great question. So a lot of that has to do with the experience with that product so far, and the success with that product. So it's a negotiation, and in a negotiation, what are you bringing forward as far as that partnership to ensure that that product's going to be successful in the store? So if I'm bringing to you a 90-day success period of making money on TV on an as seen on TV product, I have leverage. Am I bringing success from another part of the world where we're having sell-through and we have comparables, or we have some experience in the marketplace with sell-through? Am I bringing some type of collateral there, or is this, or are we just we're hoping that this is successful? Some of the retailers are getting really smart, and they're allowing some new products to come aboard, but they're you've talked about it with slotting fees. Those slotting fees are even becoming more creative now, where there are guarantees they're putting in through the sell-through on the product. They're trying to take the risk off their shoulders now, right, and put that forward on a new product. So you're going to carry that risk one way or another. So it's how you manage that risk, and we really think that that should be an evolution, not a revolution. So you really should have some sell-through experience and understand what the modeling is. Now you build a good economic model, one that looks at every possible scenario. Now because it costs a lot of money to produce that inventory too. You talk about Dollar General. Oh yeah. There's 15,000 stores, and I need to put 10 of each product in those stores, and I'm not getting paid for that until it's sold. Or 120 days later at the very best. Who's carrying that float, and how does that happen? So the retailers aren't paying you in advance for this, right? So they're and you need to show that strength as well, or that you have that capacity, or your chances of placement are non-existent.
Yeah. So you need that capital behind you, and we've seen on our end, some of those fees can be expensive, especially when you're getting paid on scam-based trading, because all that money kind of flows out into inventory at the end of the day as well. But what are some of the biggest mistakes that suppliers are making when bringing a product to these buyers? What if somebody speaks to Walgreens, gets turned down, and then comes to you and saying, "Get me into Walgreens"? Have they blown their shot?
So that's a great question. So have I blown my shot because I went in and had a conversation, or because I threw everything out on the table? And I think that there's a huge distinction. We like to get the buyers involved early on. We have conversations with buyers long before we ask them for placement, if we have that opportunity. If you can get them engaged early on with a product that you know is going to be successful, and you said, listen, we think this is going to be great. What do you think? And can we come back to you in 3 months, 6 months when we've had some success? And what else will you be looking for with this product in order to make a decision? If we can have that kind of a conversation, no. If we came in and it's like an all or nothing, or we feel we're ready and then they blow a ton of holes into your product, now you're kind of at the mercy of that situation. And the buyer might like you, but in 60 days there might be a new buyer there, and that relationship might not be there. And so what are you bringing forward? What's the strength of the product? What are we building that allows that buyer to say yes? You see, they're taking a chance, and they try to minimize the liability, and they're trying to minimize. They don't want to take a chance. I mean, the bottom line, they want insured success. They have a quota every year. They have to increase the amount of sales in that area. And you can have a successful product, meaning it's selling, but you could lose space because you're not selling enough.
Yep.
So there's a lot that goes into that decision, and that's why it's important to have good partners that you can work with in that evolution, and have success where you can have success, where it can help your business and build the model and build the case for those larger retailers as you move along. Don't get me wrong, if the timing's right and you're ready to go, a commissioned salesperson is going to be excited about taking that forward, but a smart partner is also going to say, I was told a long time ago, my father told me this, he says, don't ask your wife to go on a golf trip the day you come home from one. And the point is that it's all about timing on when you ask and how you ask and what you do. And so, I think that's important, and it is a common mistake, but you don't have to blow it if you have the right type of dialogue and partnership, and you evolve the conversation as opposed to trying to hit it all in one shot.
And I think that experience is what I'm trying to ask for our viewers, because one of our members asked a question which is kind of on the other side of the coin, where what are the chances of an independent entrepreneur where they brought on a broker, maybe somebody they met at a trade show, and they weren't able to get it into a retailer. Should the entrepreneur try it themselves?
I love the entrepreneur. I started my business as an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I think that most brokers are entrepreneurs at heart. Yep. So the spirit of the entrepreneur is what drives our country in a lot of ways. So I love that. And I love anybody that wants to take that chance and that wants to provide that effort to move an idea or a concept or a product forward. However, knowing how to do that, the right way to do that, and having something behind you to do that. If the entrepreneur is a well-financed machine that can bring forward and has deep pockets and can do a lot, then by all means, if you have the right relationship and you have the right wherewithal, then sure, absolutely. Yeah. But if you're, if you really don't have a lot and you are really counting on this to provide, and you are, then I think you need to have at least conversations with others that are going to be able to help you to evolve that, because again, it goes back to something I mentioned earlier. What are you bringing to the table? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's just not the idea or product's not enough. It's what it's behind it, the experience with it, success with the product. Have you had any marketing or advertising? What else are you bringing that's going to guarantee me success as a retailer? Because I don't want to take a chance.
Right.
I love your product, but I don't want to take a chance.
So really de-risking your opportunity when approaching a retailer is kind of key there. And there's a lot of ways to de-risk. Awesome.
And one of those is with a smart broker relationship, where they can help you to mitigate that risk because they understand those pitfalls, and you can get into those discussions early enough where you can help. I mean, a lot of times a broker will be able to tell you right off the bat, we can't work with you right now.
Right.
Because you're not there, but here's what you need to do. So it's okay to have those conversations. Have as much intel as possible before you move forward.
Yeah. I think you and I have those conversations often with suppliers. But what is one of the best things that an entrepreneur can do today to really prepare their business for success this coming year? How can they really prime the pump to get that retail win?
And I talked about it a little
bit. Wait, 1 second, Lou. You got all stuttery on me there. Go ahead and...
the connection was off there a little bit.
Yep. Give me 1 second. Let me pause it. If you gave such great advice so far, but if you could really end on what can an entrepreneur do this year to really blast off into retail, really set themselves up for success, what's the one thing that you would suggest that they focus on?
I would have them, really make sure that they have a strategic plan that's tight, and then actually test that plan through other conversations, through conversations of folks that have experience, folks that have maybe even a relationship base, but really test their plan. But there's so many people that say they have plans and they don't write them down. They really don't put them together, and you really need to test that plan. And the best example I've ever heard, I think, when it comes down to that, is it's like an orchestra, where you can have different sections of that orchestra, the violin section or the brass section, and they could sound fantastic by themselves, but how do they sound when it comes together? And do they know when to come together at the right time? And who's going to tell them to come together? And it's really how that all comes together to make beautiful music when it's ultimately all said and done. So you can have all the right pieces and parts, but how is that going to move forward? And then ultimately, where are you looking to go with this? What's the product looking to ultimately go to? What are you looking to go to as a business? And really testing those points out as much as possible. And then at that point, it's you need to get into action. I mentioned earlier, commitment or attempt. Are you trying, or are you going to go for it? I mean, you're going to commit to your thought. You're going to commit to that product or that service, and if it is something that you feel strongly about, then go for it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your experience, your time, your wisdom. I really appreciate it, Lou. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Joel. I appreciate everything you do.